Today, we delve into the wisdom of Taoism with the philosophy of be like water. Inspired by the fluidity and adaptability of water, this philosophy teaches us how to navigate life's challenges with grace and embrace change. So, let's dive in. Water, a fundamental element of life, holds profound lessons for us. Like water, we are encouraged to be flexible and adaptable. Just as water adjusts to the shape of its container, we too should learn to flow with the circumstances and not cling rigidly to our expectations. The philosophy of be like water invites us to let go of resistance and embrace the natural flow of life. Instead of exerting force against obstacles, we learn to flow around them. By doing so, we conserve energy and find alternative paths to achieve our goals. Many people are seized by the rigidity of their minds. Thinking in categories and fixed ideas can be a great crutch for survival, as it creates clarity in a chaotic universe. But thinking too rigidly also has its negative consequences. Seeing the world in categories and separate boxes limits our perception, so we become stuck in our thoughts of how things are or are supposed to be. As the universe is ever-changing, and most things, if not everything, is more complex than our minds can understand, a more fruitful approach to life would be one that is flexible, tangible, that enables us to flow along. A bit like water. The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu celebrates flexibility in his timeless work named the Ching, in which he opposes the rigid life stance that some people choose to take. In contrast to what many think, weakness, or more specifically, the ability and willingness to yield, can actually be a great strength, according to Taoist philosophy. One thing that characterizes Taoist philosophy is a deference towards nature. The ways of nature are all-encompassing. The balance between opposites is the fundamental principle of how the universe works, which manifests as ongoing change. When we observe nature closely, we can see two forces at work, the yin and yang. Yang consists of the more active elements of existence, like speed, restlessness, productivity, excitement, aggressiveness, being outgoing, but also hardness, dryness, and stiffness. Yin consists of the more passive elements, like silence, receptiveness, not reacting as opposed to reacting, and also softness and flexibility. Our culture celebrates the yang aspects of life. It's all about faster, bigger, more, better, standing your ground, defending your unchanging opinions, confronting and clashing with the enemy, altering rather than adapting. Yin aspects, on the other hand, are looked down upon. For example, being receptive to opposing opinions and being willing to change your views is often seen as weak. When we observe the nature of water, we'll discover that it's extremely resilient to change, as water is able to take all kinds of different forms. Water is the softest and most yielding substance. Yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu. We can pour water in a glass and it becomes the glass. When it's part of the ocean it waves, and like a river, it flows. Depending on the outside temperature, water changes its behavior. When it's cooked it evaporates, and when it's frozen it becomes solid. Thus, water survives many different circumstances by adaptation. The softness of water adds strength to living beings, because it makes them flexible, and, therefore, more resilient to outside circumstances. Things that are brittle and dry will break easily and are either dead or equivalent to being dead. The same goes for minds that are rigid and stern. People who are rigid and stern generally have difficulties dealing with change, as they desire permanence, rather than the uncertainty of impermanence. Unfortunately for these people, change is inevitable. Change in life comes in different forms. We could experience small changes. For example, a new colleague. Or we could experience big changes like moving to another country, divorce, or even death. The living are soft and yielding, the dead are rigid and stiff. Living plants are flexible and tender, the dead are brittle and dry. Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu argues in the Tao Te Ching that the soft overcomes the hard. He takes water as a metaphor for this assertion. Water is soft and flexible, but also has the power to erode the hardest materials like rock and metal. So, to be like water, we need to know how we can overcome the hard by being soft. First of all, Taoism is a philosophy about not forcing anything. In practice, we can see that using force is not only exhausting, it often doesn't get us anywhere. Now, this doesn't mean that we should never use force in certain situations. But in many cases, the soft approach is superior to using force when it comes to long-term results, as well as saving our energy and maintaining a tranquil mind.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Life is characterized by softness, and softness is strength. Soft things don't break easily, because they can bend and yield, unlike the brittle and rigid. Even the hardest of rock can be overcome by the gentleness of water and even the blowing of the wind. Everyone knows that the soft and yielding overcomes the rigid and hard, but few can put this knowledge into practice. Lao Tzu.